Sintering is one of the most important steps in powder metallurgy processing. It is the process of consolidating either a loose aggregate of powder or a green compact of the desired composition under the controlled conditions of temperature and time. Now, in the early years of the sintering research, debate went on about the meaning of the term sintering itself, and it was defined as the process by which powders are consolidated into the strong and usually dense polycrystalline aggregates by heating. But the ISO definition for the term reads as the thermal treatment of a powder or a compact at a temperature below the melting point of the main constituent for the purpose of increasing its strength by bonding together of the particles. Sintering increases the bond between the particles and therefore strengthens the powder metal compact. The temperature used for sintering is below the melting point of the powdered material, around 0.6 to 0.8 times below the melting point. The atoms diffuse across the boundaries of the particles by fusing the particles together and creating one solid piece. Sintering involves a single component system where the self diffusion is a major material transport mechanism and the driving force resulting from the chemical potential gradient due to the surface tension and the capillary forces between the particles, and multi-component system where interdiffusion occurs with the concentration gradient being the major driving force for sintering in addition to a self-diffusion caused by surface tension and capillary forces. In this sintering, the liquid phase formation and solid solution formation also occurs with densification. First theory was proposed by Sorwald in 1922. Now the theory says that there are two stages involved in sintering, namely the addition and the recrystallization. Addition occurs during the heating due to the atomic attraction, and crystallization occurs at recrystallization temperature. In recrystallization, microstructure changes, phase changes, grain growth and shrinkage occurs. Now the condition for sintering, the densification that occurs during sintering and the solid state sintering is carried out at temperatures where the material transport due to the diffusion is appreciable. Surface diffusion is not sufficient, atomic diffusion is hence required. This occurs by replacing the high energy solid vapor interface with free energy with the low energy solid solid interface, that is particle particle of the free energy. This reduction in the surface energy causes densification. Initially, free energy of the solid solid interface must be lower than the free energy of the solid vapor interface, and the process of sintering will stop if the overall change in the free energy of the system, that is dE, becomes 0. Whereas dASS and dASV are the interfacial area of the solid solid and solid vapor interfaces. Initially, the surface area of the compact represent the free surface area, since no grain boundaries have developed, and hence ASV is equal to ASV 0 and ASS is equal to 0. As the sintering proceeds, ASV, that is solid vapor area, decreases and solid solid area increases. The sintering process will stop when dE is equal to 0. Therefore, From the expression we get lambda SS by lambda SV is equal to minus DASV by DASS. So densification stops when minus DASV is close to 0. So to achieve densification without grain growth, the solid-solid interface must be maximized. Such conditions can be achieved by doping or by using suitable centering condition for surface free energy maximization. Now the stages in solid state centering. In general, solid state centering can be divided into 3 stages. First stage is a neck. Here the necks are formed at the contact points between the particles which continue to grow, and during this rapid neck growth takes place, also the pores are interconnected and the pore shapes are irregular. The second stage, here with the sufficient neck growth, the pore channels become more cylindrical in nature. The curvature gradient is high for small neck size, leading to the faster centering. Now with sufficient time at the centering temperature, the pore eventually becomes rounded. As the neck grows, the curvature gradient decreases and centering also decreases. This means there is no change in the pore volume, but with the change in the pore shape, pores become spherical and isolated with the continued centering. A network of pores and a skeleton of solid particles will be formed. The pores continue to form a connected phase throughout the compact. The third or the final stage, wherein this stage the pore channel closure occurs and the pores become isolated and they are no longer interconnected. Porosity does not change and the small pores remain even after long centering times. Types of centering. Sintering, which involves heating powders in the compacted form or as a loose mass, has several variations and they are briefly described or discussed. Solid state sintering. This is a commonly occurring process of consolidation of metal and alloy powders, usually loose powders or compacts. In solid state sintering, the densification is a result of atomic diffusion in the solid state. Next is the liquid phase sintering. One of the most commonly used methods of achieving rapid densification is a powder compact by liquid phase sintering. Now in this form of sintering, the densification is enhanced by employing a small amount of liquid phase, which typically is around 1 to 10% by volume. Now the liquid phase coexists with the powder particles at the sintering temperature and has some solubility for the solid. The composition of the powder compact and the sintering temperature are chosen such that the sufficient amount of liquid is formed between the solid particles of the compact. On cooling, the liquid crystallizes or forms a solid phase at grain boundaries, binding the grains. The application of the temperature initially results in some degrees of densification due to solid state sintering. Once a part of the material melts, the liquid phase formed wets the solid by spreading around the solid particles. During this stage, there is a rapid rearrangement of the solid particles, leading to the increase in density. The liquid dissolves the solid until it is saturated. If the temperature is maintained above the liquid formation temperature, the second stage of sintering takes place, during which the smaller particles are dissolved and reprecipitated on the larger grains along with an increase in density. In the last stage, known as the solid phase centering, grain coarsening takes place and the densification rate slows down. Now, this technique is useful for sintering of systems like tungsten, copper, and copper tin. The liquid phase sintering also allows sintering of covalent bonds like silicon nitride and silicon carbide, which are otherwise difficult to sinter. This technique is also used for the manufacture of cemented carbide tools where tungsten carbide particles are bonded together by cobalt. The densification can also be enhanced by the simultaneous application of pressure during sintering. Modern sintering techniques. Activated sintering. Here the addition of small amount of an alloy element called doping in certain metals and alloy systems increase the rate of falsification by as much as 100 times compared to the undoped compacts. This is known as activated sintering. Now, the best known example of activated sintering is the doping of nickel in tungsten compacts. Nickel, which is added as a solution of its salts, gets reduced during sintering and forms a coating of a few monolayer on the surface of the tungsten particles. Now, by diffusing over the tungsten particles, nickel accumulates at the neck of the particles from where the nickel penetrates to grain boundaries. Now, this presence of nickel at the grain boundaries greatly increase the grain boundary self diffusion of the tungsten. Thus, the segregation of the additive at the interparticle boundary creates a short circuit diffusion path for the rapid diffusion of the base metal, resulting in the enhanced densification. To promote activated sintering, any additive must form a low melting phase during sintering and also must segregate at the grain boundaries. The additive must also have a very high solubility for the base metal so as to promote rapid diffusion of the base metal through the additive phase. The other examples of the activated sintering includes the passing of a shock wave through a powder so as to increase the defects in the structure, resulting in the increased dislocation motion, as well as by the use of non-stoichiometry or by the use of nano-sized powders. Reaction sintering. Reaction sintering is a special form of rapid sintering technique to process high temperature materials resulting from the chemical reaction between the individual constituents, giving a very good bonding. Reaction sintering takes place when two or more components they react chemically during the sintering process to form the final product. Now, here the green compact that is made up of a mixture of the powders is heated to a temperature at which the individual constituents will react to form the final product. Now, reactive sintering may involve a transient liquid phase. Reactive sintering is nearly spontaneous once the liquid forms, which provides the capillary force leading to the densification. Now, reactive sintering has been successfully used to process various aluminide type intermetallic compounds. Reaction sintering may also involve heating in a gas atmosphere which reacts with the powder compact, resulting in the formation of the desired compound. A typical example in the production of the reaction bonded silicon nitride made by the sintering green compact of silicon powders in nitrogen atmosphere at 1523 Kelvin to 1671 Kelvin. The silicon carbide is another material made by the TINS process. Rate controlled sintering. Rate controlled sintering refers to the sintering process where the densification rate is controlled rather than the heating rate as in conventional sintering. Now, by controlling the rate of densification through all stages of sintering, This process can avoid gas entrapment in pores and rapid grain growth. Microwave sintering. Microwave have also been used to carry out sintering of powder compacts. Microwave sintering has the advantage of producing a finer grain size compared to pressureless sintering due to the faster healing rate and also shorter dwell time at the selected temperature. However, problems such as hot spots and melting of compact may occur. Self-propagating high temperature synthesis. Self-propagating high temperature synthesis is an exothermic combustion process that uses the heat generated during the reaction to sinter the material. Now, self-propagating high temperature synthesis reaction can take pores between gases, liquids and solids. Porous materials such as filtered and catalysts supports with a higher strength than those obtained by conventional methods have been produced by this SHS, that is self-propagating high temperature synthesis. Now, the process, although is very last and economical, needs an additional densification step to make useful shapes and hence adds to cost and time. Gas plasma sintering. The sintering source used in gas plasma sintering can be a DC cathode source, a radio frequency waves or microwaves. The advantage in glass plasma sintering, as in case of microwave sintering, is the possibility of producing fine grain material. Spark plasma sintering. Spark plasma sintering or SPS is a process similar to the uniaxial pressing in which a momentary DC current pulse is generated in addition to the Joule heating. Now, by producing a spark between the powder particles, the temperature during the SPS can reach up to 5000 degree to 10,000 degree centigrade, but only momentarily, so that no melting is allowed to take place. Functionally graded materials can be produced by this method. Structure and property change during sintering. Now, the main purpose of sintering is the densification of the compact powder. Densification is proportional to the shrinkage or the amount of pores removal in the case of a single component system. In case multi-component systems such as pre-mixed powders, during sintering, solid solutions may form, resulting in an expansion rather than the shrinkage. Hence, densification cannot be treated as equal to the amount of porosity removed. Expansion of the compact powder may also take place due to the entrapped gases. Densification usually results in a change in the structure of the component, which includes changes in the shape, size and size distribution of grains as well as those of the pores present in the initial compact. Reduction of the surface oxide may occur during the sintering in a reducing atmosphere. In case of a powder mix containing metals having lower melting point, evaporation or volatilization of these elements can occur and proper care must be taken. Other changes taking place during sintering may include recrystallization and grain growth. Pore growth also occurs if sintering is carried out for a longer time at high temperatures. As a consequence, the structural changes result in a change in the mechanical properties such as hardness, strength, fracture toughness, physical properties such as electrical and thermal conductivity, magnetic properties such as permeability of the material. Now, other changes such as formation of the solid solution may lead to a change in the composition. The progress of sintering can be monitored by a number of techniques. Dilatometry studies can be used to study the densification during the process itself. Other methods such as quantitative microscopy or porosimetry studies can be done on samples sintered for specific times to follow the densification. Defects analysis of the sintered components. The quality control of the sintered products are often used to replace traditional metals for cost saving or technical improvements, or ideally both. In either case, it is necessary to quantify the service parameters in terms of physical, mechanical, and chemical properties. Moreover, while dealing with sintered products, one must emphasize the need for friction awareness when specifying the material. Unfortunately, in powder metallurgy industry, there is not enough record of past tallies which may help in selecting of a material that will satisfactorily perform a particular distinction. To simplify the matter, the first thing is to define the function of the component and develop the functional tests which will determine whether the part will do the job. This brings out the importance of differentiating between the material tests and the product tests. The former provides the information about the properties of the material of a test piece nation to its intended application. The product tests, however, specifically check the immediate fitness for the service of the product and the batch form which it has drawn. A detailed analysis of the quality control aspect has been reported here. Some factors which may handicap the quality of the sintered products may be the testing and inspection procedures, which do not realistically reflect the actual use of the situation. Example, the particle size yield in flow screening by vibro screens versus the laboratory routine screening. Second, the arbitrary material substitution by the purchasing or manufacturing departments without the adequate engineering evaluation. Now, this is very important in case of tool material selection for the complex powder metallurgy parts. Third one, the crash design to incorporate new features in the existing design with minimum tooling changes. Now, as a prototype development, it can help considerably in building up confidence. Fourth one, failure apply the same evaluation methods to purchase components or powders as are applied to internally manufactured ones. Fifth, failure to anticipate misapplications of the product by the user. For example, in selecting a proper grade of the cemented carbide for different cutting purpose. Sixth, too little consideration given to the wide variations in tie physical and intellectual abilities of customers. 7. Interpretation of the statistical quality control function as absolute quantity assurance rather than a basis for action. 8 is the inadequate advice to the riser of safety procedures related to the product. For example, iron based metal powder sintered bearing are more suitable for higher loads and slower speeds than copper based bearings. And last one, the powder metallurgy process allows a considerable cost variation if a specific part requirement are not clear. Such a situation would consequently bring forth a considerable quality variation too. For widely different costs, there may be various reasons such as a revision of a tolerance or difference in manufacturing practices or introduction of supplementary processes such as repressing, etc., and maybe lack of any specified minimum density. In brief, gross difference in quality may lead to a serious misunderstanding of the requirements. Applications: electrical and electronic, that is tungsten contact materials. Electrical contact materials are produced by either slicing rod made from metal powders, infiltrating a porous refractory skeleton, or compaction and sintering of powders. Tungsten contacts cut from the rod are resistant to deformation under a large number of cycles at relatively high forces, and they have high hardness and strength. Now, the ability to switch high currents without the detrimental arching, or welding and vaporize very little in an arc. Now, these contacts meet the requirements of many automotive, aviation, and appliance applications. They are, however, very limited in use because an insulating oxide film forms during switching. Copper and silver combined with refractory materials such as tungsten carbide, and molybdenum are the principal materials for electrical contacts. A mixture of the powders is pressed and sintered, or previously pressed and sintered refractory matrix is infiltrated with molten copper or silver in a separate heating operation. The composition is controlled by the porosity of the refractory matrix. Copper tungsten contacts are used primarily in power circuit breakers and transformer tap chargers. They are confined to an oil bath because of the rapid oxidization of copper in air. Copper tungsten carbide compositions are used where greater mechanical wear resistance is necessary. In porous materials, the void space that determines the porosity is controlled as to the amount, type, and degree of interconnection. The porous parts include self-lubricating bearings, bushings, certain types of powder metallurgy parts, and metallic filters. Their manufacture represents an important aspect of the powder metallurgy industry. Now, the main application for porous metals are in filters for separating combinations of solids, liquids, and gases, surge dampers and flame arresters for use with the gases and liquids, metering devices, and distribution manifolds and storage reservoirs for liquids. Now, these last include self-lubricating bearings. In addition, porous metals are used for the diffusion of air for aeration of liquids and physical separation of immiscible liquids such as gasoline and water. Pressure gauge equalizers in instrumentation, flow control flame arresters, and sound deadeners. Porous parts and bearings are made by both the press and the sinter technologies or techniques, whereas the filters are made by the loose powder sintering. The metals most commonly used for the powder metallurgy porous products are bronze, stainless steel, nickel based alloy, titanium, and aluminium. Self-lubricating parts. Now, self-lubrication depends on the presence of oil within the pores of the bearing or bushing. A built-in oil reservoir provides a protective oil film that separates the bearing from the shaft, for example, in a motor, and prevents metal-to-metal contact. Now, during operation, the rotating shaft draws the oil in the bearing to the surface through the capillary action. Now, when not under the load, most of the oil is drawn back into the bearing, leaving a layer of oil between the two metal parts. Most bearing materials are made from bronze powders. Compositions could be 5 to 12% weight percentage by tin and up to around 6% weight by graphite. Standard compositions is 90.5 weight percent of copper, 7% weight of stannum, and 2.5% weight of graphite, or 89% weight of copper, 7% weight of stannum, and 4% weight of graphite. Iron based materials offer increased hardness and strength. In addition, their coefficient of thermal expansion is close to that of the steel shaft. However, iron based materials are generally not rated as high as copper based materials for self lubricating bearing materials. Application of powder metallurgy bearings. The powder metallurgy bearings, both self lubricating and non porous bearings, are used in a wide range of applications. Now, the major applications of bearings are given as application of the infiltrated bearings. Now, the self lubricated bearings are used in fractional horsepower motors used in the electric fans, vacuum cleaners, washing machine, sieving machine, food mixers, refrigerators, air conditioners, textile and office equipment. Their importance lies in the fact that they are very useful where external lubrication is difficult or to be avoided, such as in food industries. And the second one, that is application of the non-porous bearings. Here the copper lead bearings are employed in automotive applications and for a low duty application in the compressors and gearboxes. Heavy duty application bearings are made from the copper lead alloys having an overlay layer of the lead or lead tin alloy. Such an overlay confers excellent fatigue properties to the bearing besides improving anti-seizure characteristics and corrosion resistance to the oil. Filters. Compared to screens, metallic filters offer a tortuous path through which the fluid must flow and thus provide a depth filtration. Compared to glass or ceramic filters, powder metallurgy filters are strong and the particles of the filtered materials cannot break away in surface and enter the filtrate. The powder metallurgy filters are ductile and do not fracture under mechanical or thermal shocks. They can be fitted into housings by rolling, machining, press fitting or welding. In vibrating applications, the limited fatigue resistance of powder metallurgy filters must be taken into the consideration. A wide range of design possibilities permitting filtration at 0.5 to 200 micrometer and a flow rate from a trickle to a high volume is possible. Biomaterials. Biomaterials are considerable progressing in the manufacturing technologies and opens up the possibility of participating in the emerging market for the medical devices and surgical implants. Metallic materials like cobalt chromium alloys, titanium and titanium alloys are established for biomedical applications owing to their biocompatibility and outstanding combination of strength and ductility, and thus applied for load bearing implants provided for joint replacement, trauma or dentistry. In most cases, metallic implants are manufactured by the ingot metallurgy, which includes casting semi-finished parts with a subsequent hot or cold working to improve the microstructure and mechanical properties, and finally net shaping by mechanical machining. In titanium and titanium alloys for medical purposes, advantage is taken of all the specific properties of titanium, such as a high specific strength, high corrosion resistance and low stiffness, and excellent biocompatibility. The lowest or lower elastic modulus compared to the surgical steel is beneficial for a reduction of the so-called stress shielding effect in the bone implants. Now, let us consider an in-bone screw. Now here the system does not require high mechanical strength. The bone screws withstand strong forces. Thus typically titanium alloys are used. The screw is manufactured as to demonstrate the potential of the metal injection molding powders. Its geometry is specialized for repairing fractures of the dense axis which protrudes from the second neck vertebrate or vertebra and acts as the pivot for the head. Porous bearings. The advantage of porous bearing is that the pores be filled with lubricating oil, so that the bearing requires no further lubrication during the whole life of the machine in which it is used. Typically these are made of bronze. Starting material may be mixed elemental powders of copper and tin, fully pre-alloyed bronze powders or mixtures of the three. Now if a pre-alloyed bronze is used, shrinkage of the centering normally results, while the elemental powder causes a significant growth which can be obtained. Non-porous bearings. Bearings of copper, lead or copper tin lead made from the powder for heavy duty applications. Steel hacked bearings of copper lead or copper lead tin made from the powders are widely used. Now, a large scale production is carried out under continuous processing condition where by powder is loose centered onto a steel back strip rolled to a density approaching theoretical and to the required thickness, and it is finally annealed. Now, in addition to the economic advantage of this production method in comparison with the cast alloy, a superior microstructure and better properties are obtained.